you have this very distinct defining moment where you were looking at something, you were looking at a new situation, and it defined a lot of what you wanted to do in the future. That's really amazing. How do you move forward? What are your, like, let's say your college years where you're kind of a young adult and you're thinking, what am I going to do with my life? And I had this defining moment. It's important to me. How is that shaping your life at that point? Here's what I'm interested in as well. What kind of influences, like, in terms of mentors or family members or teachers?
That's a great question. So I'm going to tell you about the mentors.
Okay.
I was mentored by myself.
Yeah,
Didn't have a mentor. And I think part of that was that it didn't really make a difference for me. Like, I didn't even know how to find a mentor. Like, what is a mentor? So it's interesting when I have the interns come in and there's young people that I'm mentoring. Sometimes we put a little bit too much weight on that mentor in the sense of thinking if I don't have one, I can't do it. I just was like all about finding information. So you want to be a journalist, that really is going out and accessing information. So from a very young age, it was about finding the right person to talk to, asking questions, trial and error. This didn't work, let me try something else. So I had no mentor. I was fortunate to run across a lot of people who were smart and gave me good little bits of information and tidbits and were open to my questions, but no one who said, okay, my child, this is the road. Follow the yellow brick road. There was nothing like that.
Our older counterparts, they didn't have mentors either. So we didn't really grow up with that. It's now a lot of us that serve that mentorship role and are becoming those mentors and kind of leading the newer generations. But you're right, we kind of grew up in a time when they didn't exist, and the people that came before us, the professionals that came before us, they didn't really have them either.
Well, there wasn't really a lot of diversity in the workforce. So it wasn't like I could go to XYZ company and find somebody who was going to be in even middle management that would be a Latino.
Right. So let's talk about those experiences. What was the first job you had, or the first corporate kind of setting where you felt that you had, kind of the power to make some change or affect change?
Well, my first job was actually in advertising. It was not in news.
Okay.
And I actually learned a lot on that job. I learned about deadlines and copy editing and design and presentation. And I worked with somebody who was genius but very eccentric, so that also taught me how to navigate difficult personalities in the workforce. Mm-hmm. Because this person was legitimately off the chart intelligent, but was a little bit challenging to sort of work with.
Right.
From there, I had a series of media-related jobs that were not exactly what I wanted to do, but I found that along the road, I kind of went back to Curious George. George was always in a situation that he jumped from one situation to the next.
I'm so buying a Curious George book tomorrow.
Yeah, you should, definitely. But George always went from situation to situation, that sort of like out of curiosity, but again, getting maybe a little bit into trouble, but nothing serious. But there was always, like, he just jumped from point to point, and it was sort of like the preparedness plan. So I was like, well, if I can't be in a newsroom right now, let me go out and gain the skill sets that I could transfer over or that would complement that. So when I finally did end up working in a newsroom kind of environment, it was medical news for doctors. And I was working with a lot of veterans that had come from the networks, from ABC in particular. So that was a tremendous learning experience of what that work ethic was and the discipline, and also working in an environment where people had a really, really high standard.